Okay, everyone. Got done reading the DNA Doe project, and this is what they were talking about: the 1921 massacre of Tulsa. Uh, so I'm going to go ahead and read it. Let me go ahead and read it to you. Um, what happened to the Black Wall Street? Well, this is what it's. Sorry. As the city streets throbbed with protest and what some might call uprising, during the summer of 2020, two scientists' fiction drama recalls the massacre of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which took place 100 years ago this spring. Watchmen of Lovecraft County, both on HBO, filled television screen with imagining of Tulsa black neighborhood of Greenwood. Booker T. Washington named changed it to African Wall Street, which morphed into Black Wall Street as it was shot up, torches and bombed from the air by white vigilantes. Viewers wondered if the event were more fiction than science, while social media was abuzz with people trying to find out more about Tulsa among the African Americans. However, the memory had not completely faded. Even before Watchmen, which premiered in the fall of 2019, and Lovecraft County, fall 2020, the African American social media and the public literature promote hashtag Black Wall Street. In the fall, Raptor activist and interpreter Killer Mike, who extolled the value of the African American self determination, independence, and intuition, building, co founded a black and Linux digital bank called Greenwood. The name Greenwood is still evokes the possibility in the history of black entrepreneurship, but talk of the 1920 Tulsa Race Massacre remains the world of the century. Long struggles of black people or African American people against white mob violence and its greenlining from white authorities. A legacy of the African American independence, the destination of Greenwood, and assault on the citizens, beginning on May 31st, 1921, was called the worst public disturbance since the Civil War. At this time, Greenwood was very likely the most prosperous African American community in the country. In Tulsa, the Magic City was one of America's fastest growing city, an oil boomtown following the 1905 discovery of Glen Pool oil reserves 15 miles south of the town. African Americans had been around Oklahoma for a long time. In the African American Oklahoma, author B. Tolson shows that the Africans, both Moore and Engel, free and enslaved companies, expedition, I don't know how to say that word, which crossed the Oklahoma Panhandle in 1541. Now, William Lorne Katz, African American Indians, and Art Burton Black, Red and Deadly, cite an early black presence in Oklahoma, then called Indian Territory. Now, Randall Keeber, Tulsa 1921, reporting a massacre, quote, Washington Irving, 1835, eyewitness description of the creek, which confirms an early African American presence, quite oriental in appearance, and sparkling a topper, hunters, half breeds. Creole and African Americans of every huge African American families enslaved and freed were among uh, Lunchapoka Creek, I think that's how it's said, who were forced from Alabama during the Trail of the Tears and founded Tulsa in 1836. Now, before emancipation, African American slaves, the Indians, far better than those enslaved by whites. In 1940, Works, Progress, Administration, Oil, History, and Enslaved Creek confirms this. I was eating out of my some pot with the Indians while they others enslaved blacks. Now, was still lacking the white master boots in Texas, but the turn of the century, an estimate 37% of the Creek were all African Americans, many with land rights. African Americans discouraged by a failure reconstruction, West Benjamin Pop Singleton organized exoders and found Nicodemus Rattle Bone Hollow, Hagerstown, and many other towns in Kansas by 1880 under the leadership of the African American attorney Edwin P. McCobb, a former clerk for the United States Treasury Department. Now, African American formed Oklahoma clubs and worked to make Oklahoma an all-black state. Thousands of African Americans family moved in and helped found 30 black towns, including Foley, Clearville, Tolum, and Lima, and Longston, where McCabe himself helped found Longston College in 1897. The Green Quarrying, who participated in the Oklahoma Land Run in 1889, was elected to Oklahoma territories legislature in 1890. The only African American in the legislature, Curran authored Oklahoma's first civil rights bill, which last ratified by one vote as the territory government proceeded and disenfranchised the African and passed its first Jim Crow laws. Ottawa W. Gurley, known as O.W., found the Greenwood District. He was born in Huntsville, Alabama, on Christmas Day, 1868, and educated in the Pine Bluff, Arkansas, staking a claim in the Cherokee Outlet Land Run of 1893. Now, Gurley and his wife opened a general store and founded Perry, Oklahoma. When he heard of the Glenpool oil strike, Gurley saw opportunity and moved to Tulsa in 1906, and he bought land and opened another general store north of Tulsa, St. Louis, and San Francisco, or Frisco Railroad tracks. Your fraternity, Dr. A.C. Jackson, consulting physician and surgeon, in his office at night, corner of Greenwood in Archer. Now, sidestepping discrimination in the oil industry, African Americans arriving in Tulsa prospect as maid, shoeshine, waiters, chauffeurs, cooks, barbers, mammies, and gardeners to the newly rich. As spending multiple, some African Americans earn nice salaries, more than many white collar workers. Black people had money and need places to spend it. Segregation produced a captive marketplace, and African American interpreters prospect John Williams, original from Mississippi, opened an automobile repair shop and then William Dreamland Theater, offering live stage show and silent films, in addition to the air conditioning William Confectionery. John the Baptist Stratford bought property in the store and complete the 54 rooms in Stafford Hotel in 1918. The thrive of African commerce led to emergency of Dunbar Grade School, Booker T. Washington High School, pool rooms, barber shops, and funeral homes, and boarding houses, churches, Mason Lodge, and dance hall, chocolate joints, grocery store, insurance agency, law enforcement, medical and dental office, 2 newspapers in just a few years in Greenwood and Archer Street. Exciting sight, sounds, the smell of expire, the caption, the African Wall Street, and regular Monte Carlo. Now, as the Magic City grew, with the steady influx of white settlers and fortune hunters, it became more like the rest of America, but with the less law and order. White employed extraordinary tactics to gain advantage over the blacks, Indians, and even white union organizers. As 11-year-old Sarah Richter, a member of the Muskegon Creek Nation, became the richest colored girl in the world. When the gusher was discovered on her land, many African Americans feared for their lives. Postcard issued in 1911 features the hanging of African American farm wife Laura Nelson and her castrated son from the bridge in Oklahoma, in the event that later expired the activation of Woody Gunther. Another postcard showed the burning of an unidentified African American man in Durant and was captured coon hunting in 1917. 17 white members of International Workers of the World were flogged, tarred, and feathered, and turned loose on these prairie by Knights of Liberty dressed in black robes and masks. By 1921, according to the historian Scott Ellsworth, revived Tulsa Ku Klux Klan, claiming an active membership of 3,200. The tragedy of Tulsa. It started on a Monday morning, May 30th, 1921, when 19-year-old African-American shoeshine named Dick Rowland was working at the stand in front of the Drexel building in downtown Tulsa. Rowland went inside the building to use the 3rd floor segregated restroom. The elevator operator was 17-year-old Sarah Page, a white girl. What happened next is still dispute, but Page told the police that Rowland, who had left the scene, grabbed her arm and made her scream. Although there were plenty of shoe shine downtown, Rowland hurried home. He told his mom that he had tripped over the elevator threshold and actually grabbed the white girl, and she had screamed. Everyone knew that he should lay down low for a while. The next day, Rollins was arrested at his home by 2 Tulsa police officers, one white and another one, Henry Pack. He was African American. Now, the Tulsa Tribune then published in the front page headline, African American for attacking girl in elevator. Later, Walter White, who investigated the incident for the NAACP, wondered why so many were willing to believe that Rollins was foolish enough to attack a white girl on the elevator on a holiday during the time of the terror. Now, Tulsa Police Commissioner J.M. Arkinson, the police chief of John Jefferson were under pressure to keep the law and order in rough and tumbling Boomtown. Less than a year before August 1920, white drifter Roy Bolton had been ripped from the jail by a white mob and hanged in public for killing the town favorite cab driver. Also in August 1920, Oklahoma City, an 18-year-old African-American youth, Claude Chandler, was lynched by a mob that features future mayor of Oklahoma, O.A. Cargill. This time, the police, fearing a lynching, moved Roland from the regular jail to the top floor of Tulsa County Courthouse for safety. Meanwhile, the Tulsa Tribune afternoon edit fanned the flames with headline, "To Lynch African American Tonight," as the ugly mob began to gather outside the Tulsa courthouse. As Roland sat in jail back at the office of the African newspaper, A.J. Smitherson of the Tulsa Star led impression decision about how to protect him. Now, Smitherman, Tulsa Star, promote an idea of the African American independent and aggressive. Smitherman had Chessel, I can't say it, African American, for allowing the lynching of Claude Chandler in the year before Oklahoma, and he argued that the man in the room to protect Roland and themselves. Now, W.B. Du Bois had visited Tulsa, marched as the NAACP protest and gruesome lynching of Henry Lower in Arkansas. Du Bois had already warned the African veterans of World War I in many 1919 issues of Crisis that they would be cowards and jackasses. If now that the war is over, we do not marshal every ounce of our brain or brawn to fight a strainer larger, more than unbinding battle against the force of hell in our own land. Later that afternoon, what African-American-owned William Dreamland Theater's 16-year-old Bill Williams watched as a neighbor jumped on stage and now, "We're not going to let this happen. We're going to go downtown and stop this lynching." True to the words, arm of 25 African Americans went to Tulsa County Courthouse, led by O.B. Man and Man's brother grocery store, a African deputy, County Sheriff J.K. Smitherman, R.A.J.'s brother. They offer their assistant, Sheriff Willard McCullough, but he pursued them to leave. As the mob, like Bob, reached nearly 1,000 and now of 50 or more African American men feeling anxiously arrived to protect Rollins, but they too were pursued to leave about 10:30 p.m. Then, as they walked away, according to the Scott Ellsworth interview with 78-year-old survivor Robert Fairchild, E.S. McQueen, a bailiff and failed candidate for sheriff, grabbed a tall African American man, 45 caliber Army issued handgun, leading to the exchange. "Where are you going with that pistol?" "I'm going to use it. If I have to," I was the retort. "No, give it to me. Like hell I will." According to the several chronicles, all hell broke loose as the mob encouraged the retreating black American in the pitch gun battle that inches its way north towards the Francisco Railroad tracks and separate downtown from the deep Greenwood. The mob broke into downtown white-owned pawn shops, hardware stores, and to steal weapons and bullets. Tulsa law enforcement deputized and armed certain members of the mob. A disgusted, light-skinned African-American Tulsan overheard and had havoc meeting of the city official planning a Greenwood invasion. And that night, Sheriff McAuliffe hunkered down in the courtyard house and kept Mr. Rollins safe as the mob fury was aimed at the African American revolt in Greenwood, while most mob's members were not deputized and generally feeling as they were acting under protection of the government. The fact that after the disaster, none of them were convicted of crimes validated that position. After all that night battle, the Francisco tracks, many residents of Greenwood were taken by surprise as bullets ripped through the walls of their homes in pre-dawn hours. Biplanes dropped turpentine bombs from night skies into rooftops. The first aerial bombing of American City in history. A furious mob of thousands of white men insurged over African American homes, killing, destroying, snitching everything from dining room furniture, piggy banks. Arsonists report wait for white women to fill bags with household loot before setting homes on fire. The Tulsa police officers were identified by the witness as they're setting fire at the black homes, shooting residents, and stealing. Eyewitness saw women being chased from their homes naked and some of the babies in their arms. As volley of shots were fired at them, several African American people were tied to the cars and dragged through the streets. The black residents of Greenwood did not positively endure the onslaught. Mary E. Jones Parrish said that the Greenwood men defend the Frisco track like a stone wall until they exhaust their ammo. O.B. Mann, World War I veteran and invincible giant, led the violent fight by sniping the rioters from Mount Zion Baptist Church bell towards the tower until the church has engulfed in flames. The Greenwood legend, Peg Leg Taylor, a veteran of the Spanish-American War, was said to have shot a dozen white men from the sniper position and Standpipe Hill. Both survived the conflict. The Oklahoma National Guard, called in by the governor and restored order, he did so by joining the fray against the outnumbered and outgunned African American community. The Guard helped round up and disarm at least 4,000 African American men, women, and children, and marched them at gunpoint to makeshift detention camps in Tulsa Convention Center. And McNally something ballpark as a mob in early hours looting their homes, hurry as the mobsters taking furniture, just about anything. Over the course of 3 days, dead bodies were stacked up on tracks and railroad cars and buried in a secret area. The city of white aggressors even afterward flew African American families had a chance to organize a funeral or mourn the dead, many black Tulsans simply disappeared. Tulsa Greenwood Culture Center tally that in the span of 24 hours, 35 city blocks of African American Wall Street were burned to the ground. The mob blocked firefighters while 1,256 homes were destroyed. Another 400 were looted. A mass share of people in Greenwood were left homeless. And the destination also included many businesses and community institutions. 4 hotels, 8 churches, 7 grocery stores, 2 African American hospitals, and 2 candy stores, 2 pool halls, 2 Masonic lodges, real estate office, undertaker, barber, beauty shops, doctor's office, drugstores, auto garages, and chocolate joints. So, Oklahoma Tulsa Race Massacre Commission report that 100 and 300 people were killed, though the real number might be even higher. There really no way of knowing exactly how many people died. We know that there were several thousand unaccounted. Michelle Brown, program coordinator in the Fort Greenwood Culture Center, told CNN during the 2016 interview, details are difficult to gather because many survivors of the massacre fled the city. Among the count of the dead was Dr. A.C. Jackson, noted surgeon endorsed by Mayo Clinic, and the clinic acknowledged his premises. Later in the battle, as gunfire was going, Jackson walked back to his home after attending a victim hit with his hands up. According to Tim McGinn, the Burning Massacre dissertation and the Tulsa Race Riot in 1921, retired white judge John Ofen Jackson's neighbor testified that 2 young men trained their guns on the position. Here I am, said Jackson, take me, don't shoot him. That Dr. Jackson yelled for John. It was too late. Some still unidentified men in khakis who came up infrequently in testimony looked down and asked, are you Dr. Jackson? And lean it was, learning indeed Dr. Jackson. On the ground, one of them said, oh shit, those boys have done it now. Resilience, although they had survived one of the deadliest race massacre in U.S. history. Their district was demolished, many residents returned, and they mustered the strength to rebuild. Relief was sent from around the country, from the Red Cross, churches, and other establishments through Tulsa city officials' attempt to block it. The true deliverance of the people of Greenwood, however, came from within, as the document in their own words of massacre, its aftermath. The story of Tulsa Greenwood community event of Tulsa disaster was compiled by the African American stenographic Mary E. Jones Parrish, published by the black community sometimes after 1922. The book contains a first-person account of survival, but it is said that only 24 copies were printed. Parrish, who mysteriously escaped death as she fled through the hell of gunfire with her young daughter, wrote, the Tulsa disaster has taught great lessons to all of us, has depict some of our false creeds and reveal to us varieties of which we were obvious. The most significant lesson it has taught me is that love of the race is the deepest feeling rooted in our being. Every African American was afforded the same treatment, regardless of the education or advance. African Americans was African American on the day and was forced to march with their hands up for blocks. What does this teach us? It should teach us to look up, lift up, and lend a helping hand. And remember that we can't raise higher than our weakness brother. So Mississippi native who had come to Tulsa via Rochester Parish was disappeared from the record, but echoes and bound that empowers residents to rebuild the community was strong. Law firm Spears, Franklin, and Chappell provide legal assistance. To the victims, the African American lawyer filed claims against the city of Tulsa and against its new fire ordinance number 2156, which would prevent most of the victims from rebuilding and insurance companies from paying for damage caused by the massacre, even as the white pawn shop and hardware store owners were compassionate from the damage to their shops. The lawyer leading the charge was Buck Corbett Franklin, the father of the famed historian John Hope Franklin, the late professor at Duke University. He did not find evidence that disaster was permanent by the city official, but he thought they certainly take advantage of it to determine of the African American community. Miss Mary E. Jones Parish. In 1925, Booker T. Washington National African American Business League held its annual meeting in Tulsa, partly restored business district. By 1942, over 200 African businesses were operating in Greenwood. It would take the usual suspects, urban renewal and interstate highway system to economic interchange to snap the economic choke to vibrate in the deep Greenwood. During the 2021 centennial of Tulsa disaster, we are reminded of the shameful legacy of white racism in Tulsa and other African American communities. Not that long ago, for many years, white Tulsans try to forget what happened, but it's much harder for residents in Greenwood. For African people, Greenwood is a reminder of the need to stay vigilant. Another historical act of racist terror, mob attacked African American community in Detroit City, in Cincinnati, Dayton, and New York occurred prior to the Civil War. Post-Civil War massacres in New Orleans, Memphis, Wilmington, Charleston, Atlanta, Georgia massacre in 1906, the Lane, Arkansas massacre in 1919, and Rosewood, Florida massacre in 1923 have been buried deep in the records, ignored in mainstream history, books, and lost the national memorial. Only in 2020, 99 years after the fact, did the Greenwood Massacre become part of Oklahoma school curriculum. Now, Tulsa has scratched its way into popular culture. It stands as a symbol of African American tragedy and also restoration. Start all over again. The Bloomington Philipson, I can't say it, gave Tulsa $1 million for expensive public art project called the Greenwood Art Project. Quasha, I think it is, an Oklahoma native and acting director of the Center of the Truth, Racial Healing and Transformation at Oklahoma State University, Tulsa, is helping organize to exhibit about the historical African American Wall Street. neighbors and destination, and its rebirth for Tulsa Philbrook Museum of Art, Tri-County Collective. The exhibits will feature 33 Oklahoma's based artists and Lenzoa Lincia, who has also authored a children's book, Oprah Greenwood Oasis in a quick point out of the scars of hurdles that continues to plague Tulsa. The legacy of Oklahoma is that the place remains deeply segregated even today. In the North Tulsa, where Greenwood were located, there is not a hospital, and there has not been one there since to the massacre. The difference in memorial rate in the North Tulsa, 11% fewer years than White in South Tulsa, the first grocery store since 1940-1950, just under construction in North Tulsa. Every year, the Tulsa Equality Indicated reports comes out and reveals the outline alarming, despite along racial lines in policy. Historian trend to disemphasize the violent wage against black people in America. Tulsa is one prominent example. When stories like this Tulsa disaster or ample materials and living witnesses are available, are not told. We must question our record keepers. In many ways, it's pretty ironic that science fiction has forced America into confront its very reality. So that is what that DNA Doe project, finding those people who's been lost. And that's what they're doing. Hey, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys all later. Bye now.